Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be focusing on a full face of cream products. The reason for that is because I've been getting a lot of questions lately about ways to look more youthful and to have your skin look fabulous. And for me, that's in using less powder. That's a huge key. So incorporating more cream makeup products into your routine can be a great way to have less textured and more youthful looking skin. So if you'd like to glow up, then go ahead and keep watching. Alright, so right now I don't have anything but moisturizer on. Today I chose to use the Pharmacy Honey Drop Moisturizer. The reason for that is because this is really a lightweight, not overly moisturizing, if that makes any sense. So if you are someone that tends to lead normal to dry skin, this actually might not be enough for you, but if you're normal to oily, this would be a great way to start. That's one thing that I hear a lot is people are a little bit afraid of using cream products when they have oily skin. The first thing you can do is use a lightweight moisturizer and then also use an oil control primer if that's something that you're concerned about. But really, most of the areas that we tend to get oily are right through our T-zone, and we're not going to be using a lot of extra creams in that area. So I don't really necessarily find that this is a problem, but using a lightweight moisturizer and an oil control primer is a great way to start. Now, I would say that I am more normal to slightly dry in the wintertime, so I don't necessarily have to worry about oil control, but I do want to take care of a little bit of pore refinement just right through here. So I'm going to choose to use the Dr. Brandt Pores No More Luminizing Primer. And I talked about this in my recent, what I took on vacation video, because I took this along but just didn't utilize it enough. But it really kind of reminded me oh yeah, I do enjoy this one. I actually really like to use it on days that I'm not going to be wearing a lot of makeup. But I'm just going to apply this to the areas where I have some pores and texture showing. This is really just going to help fill and smooth out those areas. So first, I go ahead and kind of spread it on, but once I have the product in place, I just really like to pat that in, because if you're looking to fill those areas, that's obviously something you want to do is, pat to fill as opposed to swiping over the top. You can almost push that product off your skin. So we're just going to pat that in. So I'm going to give that a moment to sink in, and then I'm going to apply the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Stick. This is the shade Ginger. You guys have heard me talk about this, seen me use it many times, so I will be right back. All right, so I'm back with my foundation on. This probably wasn't the best time to choose to do a skin video because I'm seriously breaking out right now, which is probably partially hormonal, but also the fact that I have not been eating very well. The whole vacation, traveling, everything is kind of throwing me off my game. So there's been sugar and dairy and all the things I don't normally do. So I'm trying to get back on that good path. But at any rate, that's why I have all this. But it'll be a good reason, again, to not use as much powder, because that's just gonna emphasize that texture. So sorry to ramble, but I'm gonna go ahead and go through it with the Jouer Essential High Coverage Liquid Concealer. I've had this for a while, I've used it a few times, but haven't really used it a lot. And I wanted to let you guys know, we're gonna be using the new Luxie sponges. So this is the Trio, the complete sponge set. Obviously there's just one in here, that's the one that's really meant for baking. I took the other two out because I wanted to get them damp. So this is more, I think, they say that it's more for your contour, and then this little baby guy I think is the detail one. You'd be using this one for concealer, and then this one for probably our bronzer and blush. So I'm just gonna go ahead and probably speed this up a little bit, since this isn't anything too revolutionary, but that way you guys can see the sponges in use. And this concealer I still have a little bit of a tan from our trip, so the concealer's a bit light, but I don't plan on using a ton of it, so we should be okay. Alright, so now we've got our base on, and I'm not quite sure. I think half the time I use this concealer, I feel like it creases pretty hardcore, but that's one of these days, I feel like my under eyes are a little creasy. So I don't know, still on the fence with this guy. I've worn it a couple days this week and I liked it, and then today I put it on and I don't like it so much. As far as this sponge goes, I haven't used this guy yet, but this, I would say, you guys know I really like the Beauty Blender Blusher. This is a little bit more firm, but not the most firm I've ever used. So I would say it's almost kind of like the Real Techniques texture. This Real Techniques one is dry, but I would say it's maybe a little softer than that. So if you guys like the Real Techniques one, you might like these. Definitely a good shape, not too big. And now we're gonna go ahead and set the under eye. So a big part of why I like to use creams is because you're using less powder, and then that way you aren't having layer upon layer upon layer of powder on your face, and it doesn't look as textured and aged. I still want to use a little bit of powder in the areas that I placed some of the concealer so that I don't get creasing in those areas. So I'm just gonna dust a little bit of light powder under my eyes, down my nose, like in the corners of my nose where I can get a little bit oily, and on my chin. So the key to this is using less powder and strategically in the areas that you need it. Because we're using cream products, I'm not gonna use really anything in areas that we're gonna be using those creams. So nothing on my cheeks because we still have blush, bronzer, contour, and highlight. So the rest of the face, I'm gonna remain powder free, but right away, I want to go ahead and take care of the areas that may crease. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and use my trusty Hourglass Veil Powder. Again, I love this because it really doesn't leave much texture to the skin. You can use a very fine amount. Usually I just pop a little bit and then shake it into the cap, and that's almost all I'd need for my entire face. So we're just going to take a little bit on the Wayne Goss airbrush and tap that. I'm going to dust it over my lid as well, just right through the corners here. So really, again, just addressing that T-zone and then the under eye area. All right, then we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to get both contour and bronze today just to kind of show you guys. I don't necessarily do both every time. Sometimes I just contour, sometimes I just bronze, but there are days where I'll go ahead and do both. I'm going to go through with the Fenty Matchsticks in Amber. I've definitely talked about this one before, but it has that really cool undertone that's going to mimic the perfect shadow. I'm just using a little bit of that on both sides. Got my big earrings in. I was actually going to put on like a nice big necklace for you guys just to have a little fancy, but since I just got that massage, like my chest is really oily and I didn't want to put a necklace over all that oil. And I also didn't want to shower yet because I like to let it all absorb. So I just thought maybe some big earrings would do the trick. Feel a little put together. All right, so just blending that cream in. So if you were putting a contour powder, a bronzing powder, a blush, a highlight, and setting your face, that's a lot of layers of powder. Not to mention, you probably have either a foundation or a tinted moisturizer and maybe a concealer in some of those areas as well. That's a lot of layers to be putting on the face. So not only does this eliminate some of that, but you're just gonna get a bit more of a youthful look from using a cream product. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to switch all of your products to creams, but I would say, you know, if you would like to try a cream bronzer, I think that's a great way to start, just because it is so creamy and natural looking, because it really, if you get a good one, it really just like melts into the skin, and then it makes your skin naturally look a little bit more tan and glowy, rather than I've got bronzer sitting on top of my skin. So that's one of my favorite products to use as far as a cream goes. So for today, I just went ahead and used that contour stick right in the hollows of my cheekbones and then under my chin to try to eliminate some of the puffiness from all of the horrible eating I've been doing lately. But no more. I'm also gonna cut down on my caffeine. I was doing so well, you guys, for a while. Like, I had done 30 days of no caffeine, and then I was really limiting my caffeine, and then slowly it's just like started rising up again. And I've noticed a difference in my sleep quality, in my like mood, and definitely in my skin. So less caffeine and better food. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go through with the Milk Makeup Stick Matte Bronzer. This is the shade Baked. So I definitely see people who will go ahead and just like draw this right on. I don't have a problem doing that in areas that I contour, especially if I'm using a really small brush. By the way, this was the Luxie Airbrush Concealer Brush. So it's a very small brush that you can work in really small areas, but I don't like to do that with this because I want to get a really nice blown out look with a bronzer. I prefer to just put it on the brush. So I'm going to go through with the Jane Iredale Blending and Contouring Brush. This is the one I got in that influencer box, and I really like it. And I don't know if I said, yeah, I think I said that this is the shade Baked. They do have another one that's darker. So your contour is going to go right in the hollow of where your cheekbone is. Your bronzer should lay a little bit above that and in the areas that naturally get hit by the sun, right? Because bronzer is to make you look like you have a little bit more of a tan. So, you know, you're not going to be bronze in areas that don't get hit by the sun. It wouldn't really make much sense. So every time I'm just kind of like loading up a little bit on my brush, and then that way I can always add more, but it's hard to add less. Yeah, so I've got this little homie right here that has been hanging out with me for a couple weeks and just won't go away. And I've been really avoiding putting much product right in that area just to like make sure that I'm not drawing any attention to that breakout versus, you know, camouflaging it. So a little concealer, and then that's pretty much all I've been doing in that area. So when I do my blush and highlighter, I won't take it down too far, just to kind of keep that blended in. So I don't know if you guys will be able to see on camera, but I already just have a little bit of that, you know, like maybe I live somewhere where it's normal to be out in the outdoors and in the sun for, you know, an hour a day versus, oh my God, why would anyone ever want to be outside? I really like this bronzer, but I hate the smell of it. It just has that like clay Play-Doh scent. Now, as you probably saw, I didn't do any nose contouring day to day. I just don't do it. It's too fussy. To get it to look right, you do have to be, you know, pretty particular, and most days I'm just not going to worry about that. However, for this, I am going to take a little bit of the bronzer and just pop it down the middle of my nose, just whatever's left on my brush, because that's going to give me that like natural out of the sun look, right? So if we think about the areas that would get hit by the sun that you would naturally be bronze, it would be like tops of the cheekbones or on your cheekbones, down the bridge of the nose, and then like in that area that your forehead protrudes a little bit more. Now, the other thing sometimes I like to do with either the contour or a bronzer is just take a little bit. I'm just pinching the bristles of this brush to make it a little bit skinnier, and I'm just gonna go right underneath my bottom lip just to make that almost have a little bit of a pouty look, because it's going to create a bit of shadow there. Now, I would go ahead and do the contour stick, but that is so gray that I feel like sometimes it almost looks like a little like 5 o'clock shadow. I don't want that. So that is what it looks like with the bronzer. So I feel like already, if you guys can see, I'll zoom you in. Now, to me, this really blends into the skin so nicely. I don't feel like it looks like I'm wearing bronzer. It just looks like I am healthy and glowy, and I really enjoy that. So we will go ahead and continue on to blush. I have plenty of cream and liquid products I like. I wanted to, since I have a couple high-end products in this video, I wanted to use one that's a little bit more affordable. This is the ColourPop Blush Sticks, and this is the shade Mic Drop, which is this really pretty, like bright, kind of like corally pink. So it's a really pretty like poppy shade. So I'm gonna, again, use this on a brush just to, oh no, I was gonna use this guy for my bronzer. Darn it. Oh. Well, stay tuned. That'll be in a future video. Shoot. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I will use this on one of those sponges. I'll probably use, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use this for the blush. That'll work out just fine and we can still try it out. So the best way to apply a cream blush if you're going to use a bigger sponge like this is to put a little bit on your hand and then tap the sponge into that, and then you can apply that to your face. Now again, unless you are like the queen or king of blending your products out, I wouldn't go through straight with the stick, because that could get really scary. And also, anytime that you rub a stick on, you run the risk of pulling a little bit of that product off that you laid down before. So this is a great way to do it. So again, I just think that this gives a really nice flush to the cheeks. Now, I'm going through with a bit more of a bold shade with my blush, just because I know I'm going to be doing a nude eye, so I want to have a little bit more color to my face, but you could definitely go in with something a little less bright, but you guys know me, I'm all about the blush. Give me the blush. And I'm just gonna keep that high up on my cheekbones. If you guys haven't watched my tips on looking more youthful and awake, I will link my first makeup mistakes video so that you guys can check that one out. But for today, I definitely want to get that like lifted look with the blush. So what do you guys think? I just think that, again, this looks like I pinched my cheeks, or I just came in from the cold and I've got that little bit of color. Now, I know a lot of people do enjoy popping a little bit of blush on the nose just for that like sun-kissed look. My nose already gets a little bit red, so I don't really need that, but that can be a very pretty look if you're looking for that like naturally flushed look, but we are going to avoid that one today. So all we have left to do is highlight, and I'm going to use this little Ilia liquid light serum highlighter. So I got this in, I think it was a sample in my last Sephora order. This is the shade Nova. Really enjoying this because it has a very natural finish to it. So if you're looking for a little bit of glow, but let's say you have a lot of texture, whether it's fine lines or pores or breakouts, this is really nice. That is one of the great things about a liquid highlighter versus a powder highlighter. Anytime you use a powder, it's going to pick up texture more. So if you still enjoy a highlighted look, you can go ahead through with a liquid or a cream. This is a little bit more on the liquid side, but it's not like completely runny. You guys can see it's not like completely chasing down my hand. I'm going to use the other side of that little mini detail brush. I probably could have used this guy, but I don't want it to be like too sharp. That little sharp edge is going to be great for when you're contouring, but of course I forgot to use that. So again, tapping a little bit that onto my hand and then pressing that right into the sponge and tapping that on the face. So a lot of times what I'll do is apply that, oh, look at that, that's so pretty. Apply that color and then just use my finger to sort of smooth that in. So to me, that just gives it a beautiful, like, natural glow, but it's not like super powdery. So I love this. Very glad I got this little sample, and this little sample is going to last a very long time because that one little pump is probably going to be all we need. I might use one more. Yeah, I think I'm going to need a little bit more, but that was not even a full pump. So take a little bit of that. Sorry, I wanted to keep you guys zoomed in so you can see a little closer, and now you can't see what I'm doing with my hand. I don't know if the light is picking that up as how pretty it really is. It's definitely, I mean, you can tell it's glowy, but it's not like bam, you know, like robot skin. Not that there's anything wrong with that if that's what you prefer. I mean, I've definitely had my robot skin days, and I like to just put a little bit of that up on the brow bone as well. Now, anywhere that I have a breakout, I will avoid putting anything that has any type of shine. So we're gonna, obviously that would be lower than I would need to highlight anyway, but if I have breakouts that come up a little higher, or sometimes I get them on my brows. In fact, one just is kind of going away right there. I also like to go across the Cupid's bow, or my sorry excuse for a Cupid's bow anyway, and I'll tap just a little bit on my nose. Now, if you have oily skin, I would recommend not putting a cream highlighter on your nose, but it's not something that I'm gonna have to worry about. You can also put a little bit on your chin. If you don't have oily skin, if you do, I would avoid that, but because I have these breakouts right now, I want to keep that masked. So now it's time to set the face. So I'm gonna go ahead, now that all of the creams are done, I can use a very fine amount of powder to just go ahead and pop over these areas if I'm looking for a little bit more longevity. Most of the time for me, because I've already powdered the areas of my face that really need that, I would not go through with any more powder. I'd just use a long-lasting setting spray and that would be it. But I want to show you guys how much powder I would use if I chose to. So I'm going to zoom you guys out so we can finish this. All right, so if you guys can see how much powder is in the cap of this hourglass cap, yeah, if you guys can see the powder that's in the cap of this hourglass powder, however, you guys know what I mean. So I'm just taking that powder, anything that's left in there, on this brush. This is the Fenty setting brush. Now, to avoid moving the creams around, what I'm going to do is first just tap And I'm going below the highlight because that highlight area is where I want the least amount of powder to go because I want that nice glowy look. So I've already powdered, obviously, through here. So I'm just pressing that in. Now, that's for a couple reasons. Partially because I want to just lay down a light amount of powder everywhere, and that little tap is going to do that. Also, because I have these creams laying down, if I do too much buffing, I run the risk of, you know, buffing some of that away, and especially in the areas where I've got the little bit of extra concealer for my breakouts. I don't want to do that. So I'm really just pat, pat, pat. And if you want to, at the very end, you can just do a really light, like a light sweeping. Now, what I would recommend is if you find that you tend to be heavier handed with your makeup and you're looking for a lighter touch, take your hand and move it further out onto the handle. That's like a little too far, but you know, a little further out. The further in you are, the more pressure you're gonna have. So just taking your fingers a little bit further out. At this point, I just keep tapping my face to keep tapping my face. So that's all you'll have to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my look. I'm gonna do a little bit of an eye tutorial that you guys will get to see in the future, and I'll come back so you can see the final look. Okay guys, here we have the final look with all of our cream products. Oh, I just realized I filmed another video with my hand looking like a hot mess. But anyway, this is the final look. I hope you guys can see how nice and glowy and fresh cream products can make your skin look. So it's a little less powder, a little less layery feeling, and a lot more healthy looking skin. So it's definitely something that I enjoy. Like I said, I would recommend just taking one of these and trying it at first. If you would like to see some of my favorite cream products, I'll go ahead and link that video up here and down in the description box. Let me know if you guys found this helpful. I really do enjoy giving you guys things that you are looking for as far as content goes, so thank you for reaching out to me. I really do hope that you guys take a little bit away from this. I do have to say a little update on that concealer. It's definitely not going to be something that's going to go into my regular rotation. I felt like as I was doing this eye tutorial, which by the way is coming soon, especially meant for you hooded eye beauties. But when I was doing this, I definitely found that I have quite a bit of creasing under my eyes. And like I said, I found that once or twice when I've used this before. So I'm gonna give that concealer a thumbs down, but as far as these sponges go, I think that they're actually really nice. I definitely will get great use out of them. The set is $40 on the Luxie website. I was lucky enough to get sent it in my BoxyCharm box, so that was great because BoxyCharm is, what is it now, like $21, $28, something like that. So the price of just these sponges more than paid for the price of my BoxyCharm box, but I will definitely get good use out of these and update you over time as far as how they hold up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Are you going to try a new cream product in your life? Go ahead and let me know in the comments. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and I will see you guys really soon.